Previously on We Are Human.
A lot of this world has been focused on survival, and I think that that's what men have been doing for so long. It's like, hey, I'm here to survive, I'm here to make money, I'm here to have a house, and I'm here to have children. And then when you have children, it's like, okay, cool, everything is okay, and it's like, but are you happy?
I am one of many that are now realizing that's you don't need to recreate your parents' history and their story.
Yeah.
Because growing up and seeing the young parents, the cool hip parents that everybody loved, growing up and witnessing that, it was just so cool to me. And I was like, dang, so I have to get married by 23 or something like that. And now looking back, it's like, yo, you're wild, dude. There's no need. You know, the point is to kind of always create your own experience and make sure that the generations to come are always different. There's no need to recreate any of that. But it took me a while to learn to unlearn that. That was what I unlearned last year.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to travel. I want to explore. I want to go to all these countries with my partner and be in bliss and not have a baby crying.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Not only that, but it's not also for everybody. Everybody thinks that there's a misconception that people think that we're all guaranteed to find someone and to get married. We're all guaranteed to have kids. We're all guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? None of that is actually guaranteed. And people don't think about that. And what I dislike, whether or not it's a Hispanic thing or not, but it's a common cultural thing all around of this is what the world teaches you. You need to have it together and you need to get married and have kids and have this 9-to-5 job and all that stuff. It's no, that's what you guys did back then. Mm-hmm. And everything in life, iPhones change every year. Technology continues to change. Everything continues to change. So why can't our concepts change? And that's where tying back, if we can go back to when you coming out as non-binary.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the way that I say it's me letting people into my life, because I think a lot of the way that people have perceived the LGBTQ community, it's oh, I'm coming out, and it's this big spectacle,
right?
And I truly believe that it was me coming into myself and then having the strength to be able to share that with everybody around me and the closest people around me. Because if I don't love myself enough to know who I am, then how can you?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It comes all back to self-love. How can I truly step into who I am and who I want to embody if I haven't taken the time with myself and by myself to say, this is the way that I want to be loved. This is the way that I want to be seen by people. And there's so many stigmas now that you don't even realize that are happening. And this is why I've gone so much into starting my nonprofit, because it's 1 in 4 LGBTQ people are kicked out of their homes. 49% of the trans community has attempted suicide. That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers to understand the mental health that is really severely being impacted, and the fact that literally I think it's 39 to 41% of trans kids are homeless.
Yeah.
And it's these numbers I think really made me look at myself and be okay, what is truly the problem? Because I think that these kids and these human beings, they want to be loved and they want to be seen and they want to be able to just be understood. And the way that I explain it, it's you have a plant, right? And if you say positive things to this plant, and this is literally a scientific study, the plant, and they had another plant that they were there and they would say negative words.
Yeah.
And what happened was the plant that did not get those loving words, it died. Mm-hmm. Compared to the plant that got love and positive words, how it started to bloom. And that for me was just a translation of our bodies, of what happens when you speak negative things to it, and what happens when you only literally can see negative and negative energy. What that creates is you start to attack yourself. Mm-hmm. Your cells start to feel there's something wrong with it because of how you're speaking to it, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Compared to a plant where if I were to look at myself in the mirror and be you are beautiful, you are stunning, you walk into the room and you embody love, you embody joy, what that makes my heart feel, I'm that's great. Like, that's what I want to wake up every morning and feel, instead of like, you're ugly, like you're fat, like no one's gonna love you. What that creates, like, it's already like, I already feel like this energy where you're just like, no one's gonna thrive, no one's gonna believe that they're good enough.
Have you ever found yourself in a place where it can get a little dangerous of like all of that self-preaching into yourself of like, you know, boosting your ego? And it's not really meant to boost your ego in that sense of like becoming narcissistic, but more so to just remind yourself of your value and who you are,
right?
You know?
So this is where I feel like understanding the ego and self-love, it's like two different conversations, because an ego is how my words can affect others.
Right.
So when we're talking about me loving myself, I can love myself all day, but if I'm standing in the room and I can't see you and I can't understand and feel your pain and be considerate of how my words are affecting you, that's your ego. So I think a lot of what people need to, I feel like, really separate is like, you have to have self-love practices. The reason that a narcissist was able to get there is probably because they developed these practices. And then there's now this balance of like having compassion and having like empathy for humans, that I think also needs to be preached and also needs to be understood, because a lot of leaders in the past have been like, okay, I'm gonna pull you and you're gonna come here and like we're gonna get to the top and I'm gonna be at the top, and like then like there's all of these people that like somehow are like benefiting, and I'm just like, they don't know how to control themselves, and they don't know how to communicate that it's like, I don't have to support you, I don't have to do what you tell me, but if you tell me to me in a way with love, with compassion and understanding, that's truly what like a leaders are. And so I think it's really reshaping what like even just like kings were, what truly power is, because in our society we've seen obviously the toxic masculine that has been fed so much love and so much power that they believe that they can hurt other people, and like that doesn't matter, right? But it's like hurting people is really where it's at. Yeah. Because if I am hurting myself, you know, like, okay, hurt yourself, say all these negative things, like, you know, you can get yourself anxiety and depression, but it's like, how can we not really look at it that way, reshape it and say, hey, like, I'm gonna communicate self-love to everybody around me. The way that I talk to myself is the way that I'm gonna talk to you, and I'm not gonna make you feel bad. And if I make you feel bad, then I'm gonna be like, have enough consciousness to apologize for that.
It's like projecting. Like if I'm not taking care of myself as much, and like I, let's say, talk to myself poorly, or in my head at least talk to myself poorly, I'm gonna project that onto others, essentially, and continue to break and destroy others. Exactly. So being able to, I like that analogy also. And I mean, it's not even an analogy, it's what happens.
It's what happens. And a lot of toxic patterns. And again, I look at my mother and my father. Why can my mom sit here and say the meanest things to me, but yet she can go to a stranger that she doesn't know and be like the sweetest human being that you could, like, I'm like, my mom's an angel. Like, you do not think that my mom is gonna say and has like the things that she has said to me, and like I love her so much, but this is because her father did that, because her mother did that, and we have this twisted like mother and father perceptions that then we take into our relationships. And that's why like a lot of what my focus has been the mother and father wound, because a lot of what happens within family dynamics like is not really seen unless people talk about it, because it's such a vulnerable place for people that you don't want to go and say, yeah, I just screamed at the love of my life, like in a way that I would never scream to anybody else. But it should be the opposite. And like even just like a lot of learned from my mentor, who has completely changed my life, Paul Fink, super cool dude. He has just like been a model of like, I show up in the room where I work and where I like, you know, am able to go into my family, and you're gonna come in and you're gonna know them, you're gonna feel me and what's happening in my life, because my work and my personal life are so connected, because I want my life to be an example in every single aspect, and I want to be held accountable and be so transparent where like, you know, the way that I treat my family, because of how when I see my wife, you know, like she lights up my heart, and that's the intention that every single time that she comes into the room, I'm gonna give her that energy, because that's the love of my life. If I'm choosing you as my wife, I want you to know that I'm like, you're walking into the room and I'm like, you are the most beautiful person in this room, like you're the one. And it's like a lot of men have now made it, no, like you can't do that, you have to be tough. And it's like, why are we separating these two things when I think that they're so connected as to how you can bring success into business, how you can bring all these things when they're so interconnected, and they weave a way where you don't have to pretend and you don't have to hide. You know, like one of my like favorite proverbs is like, there's like a table full of people that are sitting there, and then there's somebody that like is holding like poop in their hands, and then they're like, oh, but you can't, you're not touching it, but it's like, I'm still holding the poop in my hands. You can smell it, but it's like, oh, but you're not holding it, so it doesn't matter. But the poop is still in the room. And so it's understanding that I'm holding on to this crap and I'm stinking up the room because I'm holding on to these things, instead of understanding that you can put it down and you don't have to be holding on to that crap, because like you don't understand how much like you holding on to these things are actually now affecting the room around you.
Yeah.
Literally tying back to like my Achilles tendon, like I had to ask for help, and that was like the hardest time of my life, because before that, like this is where like me and my parents were still healing through things. So asking my parents for help was something that I like, it was like the hardest thing to do. Asking for my best friends to show up for me and push my wheelchair, like that was such a metaphor, because I think that like I needed that in order to like be able to like be nurtured and see the parts of myself that I needed to heal. Because it's like I was healing my foot, and like as I was healing my foot, I think I was healing my soul. I was healing all of the parts of myself that I let now people in to see my vulnerability, to see the parts of me where like I used to have this idea where like you have to be perfect, you have to show up in this room, and I was getting a lot into like a lot of like entrepreneurial, like cryptocurrency, like I was standing in rooms full of like people that had so much like, you know, like energy, or just like they were so powerful that it's like, oh, this is how I have to present myself. And literally like that's when I like ended up hurting my ankle, and it was like this idea that I had of power that like I feel like Spirit and God was like, no, like that's not it. Like I need you to understand like why I've put you into these rooms, and why I've shown you all these systems and all of these people and all these things that you've networked, and how you can really take the power and you can still be this humble, nurturing human that like embodies both, like, and that's why like I see myself as non-binary, because as much as like I feel like I can step into the room and I can be like the strong, powerful person, I still want to like nurture, like I'm still here to nurture, I'm still here to take care, I still have a sweet voice that is here to like, you know, bring joy and peace to people. And a lot of times like people don't have that vulnerability of like looking at themselves and saying like, I possess everything that I want. And that's like in for example my partner, like I possess everything that my partner has, and that's why I attracted my partner, because I have aligned myself so much that I know what I deserve so that I receive that love, instead of feeling like I'm missing and like there's a part of me that like I need to fill because like I'm not complete. It's like this twisted idea of love where like we're broken people with like other broken people that are here to like somehow be fixed. Like I get to sit here and pour unconditional love to you because I've taken care of my pain, and I've taken care of the things that would prevent me from being present in this moment. And if the person can't see that, then it's like they're not letting you love yourself and take care of yourself. Because that's like the most beautiful thing, when somebody is able to say, I did everything so that I can be here with you, that I can like sit here and not have any other thoughts other than like I'm here to like literally hold you and like be a safe place for you. And if there's things that I now am able to see that you need help with, I have all these people that you can now have access to.
Resources.
And you can now understand my heart and my soul on such a like profound level, where I feel like it's this transparency where like we're not expected to be perfect people, because clearly I have a team of people that are holding me up. Like I like it's to sit here and say that like I'm like happy person all the time. It's like, no, that's why I have my acupuncturist, that's why I clear my energy, that's why I've learned all of the things that I need to do and I need to have in place in order to actually say that I want to be a leader, because I want to learn from people that have done this for so long and follow in these patterns and follow into the steps where like I know that I'm gonna make mistakes and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with saying like I'm figuring this out, and I think there's more honesty and there's more love towards what you're doing. And especially now with like the age of technology and where we're headed, it's like understanding that like this like education system that we've been going to was built for factory workers. You know, this education system where we went to is now in a sense evolving, but it's all going online. You know, like everything is shifting, everything is changing, and I think that we're now this new generation that is taking in control, where we're trying to come up with systems of how we can work together and make life easier. Everything
that you've experienced, it's all like your whole journey has taken you into this one place right now currently, which is developing this nonprofit in order to help the LGBTQ community, and you understanding how to heal yourself and to love yourself, and then being able to nurture a vast community of people that are not loved or are often overlooked. Like, I think that has been like why you've went through everything, to really have the understanding, the experience, and then now the purpose to do this.
Yeah, truly. I mean, like, even more back, like, I come from Cali, Colombia. I'm a refugee. My family, like, my dad's farm in Colombia, like, it was just such a bad time. Las FARC was taking over. He took over and killed everybody in my dad's farm. Like, there's just, like, tons of tragedy that has happened in my family, and how we've been able to overcome, and how my dad was able to find the strength to move to another country, not speaking the language, with like a 4-year-old child. Like, my mom, we've lived on a mattress, we had bread, you know what I'm saying, all we had was bread. And it's like, we come from this story where we have to now like look within ourselves and be like, okay, like, you can really figure this out, and we have the strength. And I think that my story is a strength, like a story of perseverance. It's a story of not giving up. And I believe that what has happened with the LGBT community is that, like, a lot of family has given up on these children. They've given up on unconditional love. They've given up on the thing that I truly believe is like it's like a gift. It's like, you are here to like love your children, and if you're not loving your children, then what are you doing? Because you brought them into this world. What lesson are you not getting? Because you're truly missing a lesson here if you're able to like disown your child because of the way that they love, or because of the way that they want to present themselves in this world. And a lot of what I've come to understand is like, angels are non-binary. Angels are both like masculine and feminine energies. And even in the Bible, when, you know, like, when if we look at the Bible, if you're spiritual, like, literally when you go to heaven, like, they say that there's no gender, because we both are masculine and feminine within ourselves. And I think that humanity is now really, really being challenged to bring heaven on earth, to truly embody what unconditional love, and to love people in such a way where like there's nothing that's going to prevent me from loving you. And that's it. And it's like, if you're hurting and you're in pain, then we have to come up with solutions. And a lot of what my family went through, my aunt also was in like a huge like refugee, like, and she's just given me so many systems and so many ideas that I think that really need to be in place. And so the big vision, and it's literally crazy because it came to me as a dream, Elijah. Like, yeah. and I say this with like so much like excitement and so much honor, because like I was in like such a low place, because everything was happening with, you know, COVID, and this reality hit where all of our spaces were closing, right? And this is regardless of whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or, you know, you're straight, like you couldn't go out. But the sad things here is that we only have nighttime spaces. We like, and specifically in Orlando, we had a tragedy that happened here 4 years ago, going on 5 now. We had 49 angels literally like murdered in this space, and the trauma that has like literally been here and has not like, there has been solutions, and there has been, you know, incredible people that have tried to come up with ways, but there has no other space has been open for us to be able to have a daytime space. And this is something that the One Orlando Alliance literally published too. And it's crazy because I had this dream where I walked into the space, and it was this coffee shop literally to my left, and then I saw like upstairs, it was like, I closed my eyes, like literally so picture it, and there was like doctors' offices, and there was like a retail store, and there was so many things in here, and it felt like the most beautiful place I've ever walked into. And I was just like, I woke up and I was crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what did I dream? Like what were you trying to show me? Because I think that this place that I was dreaming of didn't exist. Yeah. This place where I could step in and be who I wanted, and like, let's say, have my friends come and be and self-express themselves, whether like you're trans, whether it's like, this was a safe place for you. And it's like, I didn't have that. And when things started to open up a little bit again, there wasn't that space. There wasn't this, like, all we had were bars. And like these like sober spaces where I think that like are so important right now for our youth, for the cultivation of like knowledge and intelligence, it just really hit me. And so I started to really research and talk to people in the community and be like, what are we doing? Like how are we gonna have a daytime spaces? And they're like, that's a good question. Like that's a really good question.
Yeah, and having a daytime space where it's more of like I guess calm and collected, like place to connect with people, to have this community doing a variety of things, not just the club scene, you know, like you mentioned, having doctors as a resource and chiropractors, coffee, a retail store to share, like LGBTQ owned businesses.
Yeah.
I think that's incredibly important. What else, or what can you tell me about like what you have planned moving forward?
Yeah, no, I think there's so much that has been coming together because I've been able to connect with so many community leaders that I think to think that I had the answers was like, that's not it. It was me figuring out what the community needed and looking at a community needs assessment and seeing like, okay, cool. The One Orlando Alliance says that we need a daytime space. And I see this as being a resource center for people to be able to envision like having a future and be able to start their businesses and be a platform for people to be able to see that, yes, there can be nighttime spaces, but there has to be more variety here in Orlando because we have to now, the nonprofit's called Please Evolve, the Please Evolve Foundation, and we are doing the Please Bloom initiative. So just to tie in with the plants, we are here to bloom and here to blossom in the most profound way where we can see that there's a future that is, we're going to build a better world now. That's the mission statement, because all of these cultural things that have happened to us and have, you know, yes, they have maybe shifted our mindset, but now I think it's time for us to really step into our power and to step into the reality that we can create a better world. And if we are visionaries, and if we can sit here and come up with these solutions, these spaces are going to thrive because we are a community where, for example, like when we talk about the fashion industry, the queer community has been literally like, everybody gets styled by a queer fashioner. Like we have been the epicenter of what fashion is for generations. And so understanding that we've shaped fashion, that we have shaped the cultural music scene, and being able to bring now a space where you can sit and you can create and you can, and for us working with the retail center Please Evolve, they have really truly like empowered us into being able to have artists submit work, and we be able to be a fulfillment center, to be able to fulfill all of these brands and all of these brilliant kids that before they didn't have a way to be able to have and sell their art. We want to be able to do that. We want to also be a nonprofit where like you can go and you can take yourself to Goodwill, but you can now also come here and we'll be able to sell your items, and that is going to be a donation that we're going to be able to give in your name if you come and you bring objects. And so we're really envisioning what a nonprofit is, and I've been partnering with a lot of just life coaches, a lot of mentors, and a lot of like people that have very successful businesses, have, you know, a lot of real estate, and really being a platform of resources for people to see all of the people that we want to connect with. So having mentorships, having people that are there to pour love and see this community bloom in a way that I think it's going to be monumental, because the nonprofit is really going to be powered by the coffee shop, which I'm working with an incredible coffee developer who he has set up a huge coffee development here in Orlando. And so now we're taking a system where it's very similar to, have you ever been to Credo?
Yeah.
It's literally the same system. So it's a nonprofit. So you're able to now donate the amount that you want when you're getting the coffee, and then that money is going to be going into all of the initiatives that are going to help provide sustainable care, where we're going to be able to help people that, you know, before we had this, like the center, which is an incredible place and they have awesome things, but we want to also provide chiropractic care. We want to provide all of these different types of healing to the community that before they didn't think that were accessible to them, because a lot of times people are so caught up in surviving that they haven't really taken the time to be like, what do I need? What does my body need to take care of myself? So having that information, I think, is going to be so powerful in a place where it's not this like crazy scary thing. It's like, oh, everything is so integrated, and the doctors are going to help be the platform that's holding this together.
Yeah.
Because they're having this space and they're creating this COVID-free space because they know they're doctors. They know how to do this. So we're now having to deal with the fact that there's going to be so much anxiety from people because we're coming back, but the LGBTQ community has been, you know, very, very impacted by AIDS, and a lot of people have a very impacted immune system. So we now have to really cater to the community that has been overlooked for generations, and come up with new solutions for them to feel safe to come out and come to these daytime spaces where they can be free. So be able to empower and provide resources, provide medical safety, and then also a big thing for me is provide employment opportunities where you can exist and be who you are and not be discriminated. Because most, like there's about, it's crazy numbers, I think it's like almost 80% of the trans community has been discriminated at work. I think it's probably a bigger number at this point, because it's like understanding that if you're part of the trans community, there's always going to be negative comments, there's always going to be somebody that isn't educated, and so there's a lot of discrimination that does happen in these spaces. And when you're going into medical offices, like I don't know if this doctor is going to understand or even sympathize what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And so we're putting together a huge program where we want to stamp the doctors and we want to put them through trainings so that they know how to treat the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And have this mindfulness that needs to be put in place throughout like society. Because I don't think that people are mindful. People have these stigmas, have these things, and they think that they're the truth. And it's like, if you and I have different truths, then we're gonna fight. And it's like, no, we don't have to fight. Like, we're just gonna sit here and we're gonna learn to understand each other and educate ourselves on people's traumas and people's pains so that this world can just be a better place, truly.